And I'm Jessica.
Welcome to Nomads,
a podcast about international teaching, travel, and life.
We met in our undergrad music program in Minnesota and are now both international music teachers.
I'm currently teaching for a school in Panama City, Panama.
And I'm now teaching for a school in Shenzhen, China.
However, right at this moment of recording this, we're both remote teaching from Minnesota.
If you haven't yet, don't forget to check out our Instagram and follow us at Nomads Podcast.
And if you're listening on YouTube, and like I said last week, that's the only place you could listen, we would appreciate if you would subscribe and turn on the notifications so you get alerted when we upload.
So last week, we gave you an update about our first month of teaching online and how that's been going. And we gave you some updates about when we might get to those places and trying to get to know the students virtually.
And this week, we are talking to Laura's former colleague and roommate from Arizona, Rick Stocking.
Rick, where in the world are you?
Oh, wow. I'm in sunny Tucson, Arizona. It's a great time.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yep, I miss that.
Boy, you should miss it because the weather is phenomenal. Like no place in the world. It is dry. It is hot. There's mountains. There's lizards everywhere. Scorpions and stuff. It's pretty cool.
Are the monsoons over yet?
Oh, yeah. They're done, baby.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll still be having monsoons in China, so at least I'm somewhat equipped for that.
Hey, at least you get...
Oh, no. You froze.
Oh, no.
Oh, God. Am I frozen?
No,
not
anymore.
Okay, oh, I'm back.
What did you say?
Oh, I was talking about good old winters up in Minnesota and
Oh,
how
yeah.
we don't have those in Arizona.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
We just it's cold for a little bit.
Yeah, barely cold here.
Well, why don't we start, since I'm sure most of our listeners are following you on Instagram and are obsessed with your persona. Anyone new who's listening, could you give like a background, like what you're doing now, how you got to that place, etc.?
Sure. So I'll start with the beginning of my life story. I was born in a cold city called Rochester, New York, back in 1992 on a cold winter's day in February. Wow. After that, I did the whole primary school, secondary school thing. Then I went to a good community college. Then I ended up at SUNY Cortland, which is a college in upstate New York. I got my undergraduate in political science and history. Yes, that is a dual degree. That means a combination of two majors, basically. Then I got my master's in history at SUNY Brockport, which really opened me up to historical research. The plan after graduate school, of course, was to get into a PhD program. However, as one does, I applied a little late and didn't get into any of the programs that I wanted. So I applied to a bunch of different places, some of them research-oriented, some of them museums, some of them schools. And the first place I wanted to go to was Washington, D.C. to work for the Daughters of the American Revolution. However, I only made it through one round of their interview process. And then I had a bunch of different places I wanted to go to teach. And I'm like, hey, Arizona seems pretty warm. And there's more to the story that I don't wish anyone else to ever hear. But yeah. And now I'm here and I teach in beautiful Seminole High School of Mammoth Seminole School Districts, of course. And it is an outstanding place to teach. And I have loved it since day one.
Wow, I'm so glad to hear you say that all in one thing, because I never heard it like that, and I think I had to piece it all together.
You should. You got to piece the whole story, the whole narrative. That's what it's about.
Yeah.
I was gonna ask, did you say like what grade you teach?
Oh no, I didn't. So I have taught all high school levels, but this year I am only teaching 10th through 12th grade. So I teach 10th grade world history and geography, 11th grade U.S. history and Arizona history, 12th grade U.S. Constitution, Arizona Constitution, and economics, and then finally my lovely AP U.S. government and politics course.
Nice.
It's great.
They're really hardcore. I don't know, because I haven't even taught in Minnesota. If other states force you to learn their state constitution, I've only heard
Yeah.
of that in Arizona. Is it true?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not really sure because the only constitutions I was really aware of before I moved here was, of course, the federal constitution and New York State's constitution.
Mhm.
But then I moved down here and everyone's like, oh, yeah, you got to take a class on Arizona's constitution. And then I took the class and now I know a little bit about it, but
Okay, so because we're now like in this pandemic situation, what are you doing at your school? How's it
right.
going?
So last year when COVID struck, we were in spring break, I believe, and then we went to online teaching, of course, and it was a little bit hectic towards the end of the year, just getting everyone used to online learning. We come from a school district that doesn't have the best technology, even though we've improved since COVID. But since the start of the year, the plan was to do hybrid teaching. However, right before the school year started, they decided that we are going to do all online for about the first quarter or so of school, I believe. But at first, I was really anxious about it because I didn't know if I would be able to be an effective teacher online. But I'm really starting to get used to it now and starting to see that online learning for some students is a really good thing, and for others, it's a really bad thing. But I'm definitely getting more and more used to it and strengthening my online teaching skills.
Yeah, we just talked about in the last episode how it's been really hard. Even though we knew this year that we were going to be online, it was really hard because we are both at new schools. So you have the knowledge, and we had the knowledge last year of like, we already know these kids, we know what their attitudes are going to be, if they're going to need extra supports. But now we have no clue, and we just have to take everything at face value. So have you
Yeah,
experienced anything weird like that?
not too much because I mean, I've been teaching the same kids since I've been at Seminole. I'm actually, as of right now, the only high school history and politics teacher in the district, which I love because you really you get a nice relationship with the kids. You see them evolve from little freshmen that are all crazy and rebellious and don't care about school and don't care about anything except video games. And then I see kids graduate. And then one of my students is actually going to, one of your former students as well, got into ASU's journalism program.
Oh my gosh. I think I know who that
Yes.
is. That's awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I know who it is.
Okay.
I think that student, actually, we spent one period where they taught me a lesson because I didn't understand how geography works.
Yes, that student is very good at geography.
Yep. It was a good time. Well, we talked a little bit about how you got into teaching, but why have you chosen to stay in the profession as well as that specific school, however much you'd like to share? Because all three of us are in that time of still being like the first 5 years of teaching, and that's when a lot of people quit.
Right. Yeah, so definitely a lot of teachers quit within 3 to 5 years of teaching. My first year, I was really worried that I might be one of those people, but I definitely fell in love with it. Um, there's a couple different reasons that I fell in love with it. Number one, the school district that I teach at, I already talked about this. You really get to see the kids develop over the course of 4 years, and you build that really strong professional relationship with them. And I feel like at some other school districts, maybe bigger ones, that doesn't happen as much. Another reason I love being a teacher is because I get to talk about the things I like to talk about every day. And if you know me, you know I like history and politics. So that's what we talk about at all times. And then finally, the biggest thing I would have to say is just being able to develop the critical thinking skills and research skills in kids and seeing that little light bulb, metaphorical light bulb, blow up in the brain. And I'm like, oh, now I get it. Yeah, this is why this happens. I'm like, wow, yes, you are now a great person, just like me, baby.
Okay, this is kind of jumping back, and I guess you could both like answer it, but like, how did you guys become roommates? Because you both went there and didn't know each other. And also just like, what is it like working with somebody and living with them?
Should I go first, or Laura, would you like to go first?
Why don't you go ahead and I'll fill in any blanks that you miss.
All right. So yes, I got the job at Summonwell, and I didn't know where the heck I was going to live, but luckily, my superintendent's husband had a property in which he rented to me and Laura, and we didn't know each other, obviously, but I forget if we met through like Facebook or something like that.
So the landlord said, because I was looking for a place and I tried really hard and I had the same problem as you. And then I emailed the landlord and I was like, dude, I can't find literally anything. Like, there's only 2 rental units in the town where we're going to teach, and they're all booked for like forever.
Yeah.
And so he's like, yeah, I figured you might have that problem. And if you don't want to live in Tucson, because it's like a 45-minute drive, then it's going to be hard. So he still had like one rental place that he was just working on. Like, I don't think anyone had lived in it before us. So he said, I don't think, because he knows what kind of money teachers make, I don't think you'd be able to afford it on your own. I don't think you'd want to pay that on your own. But there's another new teacher who's looking for a place to live, and I don't, just meet him and you can decide if you want to take the place for yourself or share it with him and save a little money. So we had one FaceTime, and I think you stalked me on Facebook and said, you're from Rochester too, but the other one.
Yeah, I had a crazy girlfriend at the time that stalked you, because I didn't have a Facebook at the time, but she definitely did a lot.
Uh-huh. So
She
then
gave me all the inside info.
So I asked you like my 3 important questions. I still remember them because my mom asked me like, how did you guys end up together in the house, because you're so different? And I said, I asked him if I can play loud music, and
I was like,
especially
of
like
course.
rap or hip hop. But then later that was like our whole thing of the house, because we would both do that. Then
Of
I
course.
asked you if I could get a dog, which I never did. And he was like, yeah, that'd be great. And then I said, I'm going to cook a lot. Do you have a problem with that? And you were like, no, I don't cook at all.
Yeah, I don't really, I mean, I'm a really good cook. It's just I'm a lazy boy. When I get out of work, I don't want to do any cooking, but boy, did you cook. And sometimes you would cook me breakfast, sometimes dinner, sometimes on like holidays. We had the whole Easter celebration with your sister when she came down. That was a lovely time.
We had Thanksgiving nachos because she was vegan
Oh,
at the
yes.
time. And that was like the only thing I could think of that would be easy to make, like how you want it to. And we sat in the spare room on the ground because there was no furniture.
And then we watched movies in there. It was
That's
great.
true. It was really fun.
Wow. Good days. Good times.
Oh, yeah. Yes. So other things about living together, everyone forever always thought that we were dating, and we never did.
Yeah, I got that a lot from
Kind of
students. I'm
weird.
like, no, we're best friends. Don't get me wrong, but.
And then they found out when I was leaving. They're like, why are you leaving Mr. Stocking? I'm like, I'm not.
Ooh. We should have pulled a nice prank and be like, yeah, we've been dating this whole time. We're just not getting along, and she's leaving.
Yeah, bye.
She broke my heart. Bye. Bye.
No. I don't know. It was fun. Do you have any comments on what it was like to like live and work and also have recreational times together?
I mean, not too much. I definitely enjoyed it, and I think you're probably one of a handful of coworkers I probably could live with, and I think most of that has to do with our age. We're very similar in age, and we like a lot of the same stuff. Of course, we love food. Of course, we love rap music. Of course, we like loud music of basically any kind, and we're pretty easygoing and loving people, so it worked out pretty well. That's true. You like music, I like history and politics, and we did a good job of having late night discussions on the 2 couches that we had about those types of things. And you taught me guitar with only 1 lesson. If anyone wants to learn acoustic guitar and wants to have a SoundCloud blow up overnight, take one lesson with Miss Galbus, you're fine. You're Gucci.
And it was free, so you could have a career for $0 down.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
Well, the next one, Laura, that you wrote, we already kind of talked about, right?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I was
know.
thinking about this when you guys were talking, and I was like, it's actually kind of similar to, I mean, we don't like live with other people when we teach international, but there is like a lot of overlap in like your coworkers there too. Like you live in the same apartments and they're your friends and they're your coworkers and sometimes your students' parents. So, I mean, it probably helped to prepare you, Laura, for being like together with the same people all the time when you got abroad.
Yeah, everything about Arizona really set me up for teaching internationally. And even though it was only 1 year and like I was sad to leave everyone, it was great because I had, you know, being away from my family for like the first time extended and dealing with that and going somewhere where I knew literally 0 people and having to deal with that. It was a little bit different, but it was like a good transition. So yeah, so one of the things we wanted to talk about specifically with you that's like kind of topical is when we both worked there was a teacher strike in Arizona. And I don't remember a lot of details about this, but what do you remember?
Yeah, so my first year teaching up in Arizona, we had the whole Red for Ed movement, which of course is teachers and other educators, just administration and everything, pushing for some education reform. And by education reform, we mean smaller class sizes, more resources in the classroom, more payment for teachers, more resources at school, like more psychiatrists, psychologists, counselors, things like that. Just trying to make the education system in Arizona better, basically.
Yeah, when I moved there, I did some research about Arizona. I basically, same reason as you, I chose it for the weather and it being a new place, a place I had never been. So I just did some research about like teaching there because I didn't know a lot. And at the time, I don't know if this is still true, but it said Arizona was ranked 49th out of 50 for funding and like 48 out of 50 for like efficiency of using resources. So basically, I read between the lines and was like, what little money they have, they don't really use it well. So that I felt a lot when I was there.
Yeah, and it's very weird because we both come from states that really value education. I come from New York, and the amount of money public schools get in New York makes Arizona look not so good.
Yeah.
But the good thing about teaching in an environment that doesn't have like all the new technology and all the funding is you're really able to make connections with the students, and you still, I'll say this 1,000 times throughout this, you see them develop over time, and that's just something I love seeing. But it is getting better in Arizona, slowly but surely. We got a 20% pay increase over the course of 2 years.
Nice.
So that's good. I think the first year we got 9% increase, and the year after that it was 11, maybe vice versa. I don't know, one of the two. The only thing I really didn't like, and this has nothing to do with the Red for Ed movement, I completely support them, is the government in Arizona is very red, Republican, of course. And it seemed that the media at the time was trying to make Red for Ed seem like that just teachers want more money and that we're greedy people and like we think we have too much on our plate and can't handle it. When I'm like, I don't care. Like, obviously, I don't care about the kind of money I'm making. I'm an educator, but I would like to see more money in the classroom, more technology in the classroom, more parapros in my classroom, more counselors that I could send kids down to when they have issues that I can't really handle, you know?
Yeah. Well, basically all of Arizona, because I went to a conference, a teaching conference when I was there, and they were talking a lot about Title I schools, and the school that we taught at was a Title I school. And then someone was like, yeah, basically every school in Arizona, unless it's like a private school or like deep in the metro of Phoenix is Title One. The whole state is Title One. So it actually kind of helped the situation because at the conference, they were tailoring all of these different sessions towards how to get grants, how to maximize the money that you get from the state. And a lot of teachers were working that pretty well. And you could still get a lot of money and you could make your classroom look how you wanted to, but you had to do extra work for it.
Yeah, yeah. And that's tough with a teacher that, those teacher days that go from you get to work at 7 a.m. and you don't leave till 7 p.m. and you don't really want to fill out grants at 8 p.m. when you're very, very hungry and want to go sleepies.
Yeah, exactly. But back to the actual strike, because there were certain waves in which like we didn't go to school for a couple days. We were supposed to be on strike, and like you were supposed, at first they told us you had to like fill out an official leave form and like use one of your sick days or something, but then pretty much everyone was putting in for it. So then they said a certain number of days you could be exempt from using your sick days because of the strike. And then we kept having all of these mandatory meetings to talk about it, and I don't remember how long. I think it was only a couple days, right?
Yeah, I think it was less than a week, to be honest. But some of our coworkers actually went up to Phoenix to some of the bigger strike protests. But there were some in Tucson as well. We both chose not to go to those, but in hindsight, I probably would have went to them. But when you don't know any of your colleagues that closely, and it's in the middle of your first school year, you don't really think things through completely.
And it was 45 minutes away, and we had just become teachers. We're like, well, for me, it was my first salary job. So I was like, I mean, I'm not like hurting. It's great to have a paycheck, but I support the movement.
Yeah, you're definitely underestimating the distance too. From downtown Tucson from Sunman Wells, more like an hour, and Phoenix is like 2 something. Like
that's true.
I live in the Catalina foothills, which is a little north of Tucson, but I still have a 53-minute drive every day. But I wake up at 4 a.m., so that helps out a lot.
Yeah, I think we were more estimating for Oro Valley because we wouldn't even make it into Tucson. Yeah, that was one of the really hard parts about living there. Like, I always go back and think about, should I have stayed, or like, should I go back or whatever. But it was just so hard to have any kind of social life. And like, I mean, no one lived in Salmonwell except your students and your parents and the other teachers. So it wasn't like you're going to meet someone when you're going to the grocery store.
Very true. And the thing about Seminole is it's a very small community. So like even I would go to the grocery store and like kids would tell me, oh yeah, my brother or sister saw you at the grocery store. And I'm like, okay, like I'm just shopping for stuff. I'm just doing daily stuff, but I don't need to hear about it. But
every single time.
But I actually do like living in the foothills, and last year I lived in Oro Valley because I do get that experience of having my own like recreational time with people that are actually my age that will never know me professionally, and that really helps out a lot.
Yeah, I still can't relate to that because even when I moved to Turkmenistan, the only people who spoke English were the teachers or people at the embassy who didn't really have time to like make friends anyway. So
right, for me it's like rough. Or other international teachers at other schools. So this is super random, but Laura was telling me something about, I don't know, you having issues with memes or something in your class. I don't know. Do you have like any stories, or I don't know?
But I definitely use memes for a ton of different things within the classroom. Actually, at one point, I was called Mr. Meme by a bunch of students. So I use memes in the classroom for a bunch of different reasons. The first one, obviously, the humor. You gotta have the humor in the classroom, or the kids aren't gonna listen to you. If you're just a boring person, just mundanely talking over facts and stuff like that, kids are not going to care what you're saying. So that livens it up. but also there are some very, very good historical memes and political memes out there that relate to what I'm teaching in class, and the kids love them. Actually, one thing that I did at the end of last year when the COVID first struck, I had something called Meme Monday, and that was a great time. I would have kids either make a meme or find one on the internet and relate it to class, and they would post it on our Google Classroom, of course, and they would comment between each other and be like, oh yeah, this relates to this because of this, blah, 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 blah. And I had a lot of really, really good engagement and participation because of that. So memes, they're great. We love them.
That's cool. I mean, I think it's probably because of the language barrier at the other schools that I've been to, and they're just not on social media in the same way that American kids are. But I also did a couple of things because I was inspired by you, of course. We had Bach
Of course,
Week.
everyone is.
We were learning about like the Baroque period or something, and we had Bach Week. So every day I would print out a new Bach meme and I would just accost the children when they came into the room and force them to look at my meme. And then at the end, I said, like, everyone needs to find their favorite Bach meme from the internet, or you can make one. And we put them all around the classroom as decorations because we didn't have any other decorations. And it was a beautiful time.
Yeah, I'm telling you, the kids with me, this next generation coming up, they're going to blow the world out of the water in a good way.
Yeah.
They are critical thinkers at a degree that some people can't even comprehend, and I love it. And they do everything through memes, and it's great.
Questions from the gram.
Oh, we're already, wow. From
Yeah.
the gram. Okay.
We don't, all of our followers, we will definitely give you time to plug your own social media and your SoundCloud, but we have
Sure.
an anonymous questioner asks, how did you become the best teacher?
Oh, wow. Well, it really comes down to a bunch of different things, but the number one thing is effort. After effort, of course, comes dedication. You need to dedicate, I would say, at least 12 hours a day to education. And if you don't, you're not going to be a good educator. Even when you go home, you need to have like a book in your left hand and a laptop in the right, grading stuff. But the third one is definitely appealing to the children at an academic sense. You can't just be, like I talked before, you got to incorporate what kids care about. The good old Instagram. Some of the kids even want to do, which I'm thinking about in the future, making what the kids call a TikTok, which I guess is some kind of thing where you record like a 15-second thing of yourself. And a lot of kids do the whoa or something like that. I don't get that, but I'm going to incorporate it in my class eventually. And the final thing really is you just have to be me. If you're not me, you're not going to be the world's best teacher. You could be the second best, you could be the third best, but you're not going to be the best. And I mean that in a good way because, you know what? I'm a good person. We love that.
Wow.
Perfect answer, right?
Thank you for your wisdom and for gracing the other teachers listening with all of that.
That's showbiz, baby.
I don't know. Is there anything else like you want to talk about, Rick, or like Laura? Because I guess we already are.
I don't know. Flip it around.
I don't have any questions, but one thing I do kind of want to bring up is so our president, Donald Trump, has actually been talking fairly recently about changing education in America. He believes that teachers are pushing Marxism and leftist thoughts on kids, and they're corrupting children and making them unpatriotic or not having pride in America or something like that. And he's actually pushing this thing he calls the 1776 Commission, which is basically to get rid of any kind of Marxism in class, critical race theory, anything like that, and to make sure that kids aren't critically analyzing the past and we're focusing on the good things about America, not so much the terrible things like the whole genocide of natives and the killing and slavery of Black people and the whole systematic oppression of Latinos right now. So that's one huge threat I see in the education system. something that I try to live by is leave education up to the educators. Just like I wouldn't go up to someone that does drywall for a living and punch a hole in the drywall and say, hey, bud, that's actually how you do it, when I know nothing about drywall. You know what I mean? So that's just one kind of threatening thing I see looming. And I'm sorry for getting off topic, but that's just something that weighs on my little brain up there. Oh, you're reading some Karl. Oh, Marx for Beginners. That's a good one. Nice. Yeah.
Okay, politics aside, I would just like to say, if people who are open-minded are just interested in what this is about, because I feel like a lot of people just put labels on things and don't do research and, all that. There is a lot of things that we are doing already that are connected to Marxism, and people don't realize it, and they call it other things. That's fine.
Yeah.
I'm just saying people should research what these terms actually mean.
Yeah, I think people throw around the term Marxism a little bit too much. And yes, it does have multiple different definitions, but at its core, Marxism is looking at the class struggle between the proletariat, the worker, and the bourgeoisie, the owners of production, and seeing that there is a class struggle between that. One thing Marx does point out, of course, is that economics changes over time. It started out basically with feudalism, develops into capitalism, slowly socialism, and that there's going to be a communist revolution. That doesn't mean that everyone that studies Marxism and incorporates Marxism believes that that's going to happen. But at its core, we need to question what's going on. We need to see things in a light that, yeah, there are different classes, and yeah, there is a working class, there is an owner class, and we need to kind of view the world in that sense.
I have another hard-hitting question for you. As you are a history teacher, how do you feel about Hamilton? Have you seen it? What are your thoughts?
I have not seen Hamilton, but the book by Ron Chernow, which it's based off of, is a fairly good book. I haven't read the book, but from what academics say about it, it's really good. The only issues I have with Hamilton is it seems to distort history in a couple different ways, just because it includes rap and doesn't really look at the racial tensions and economic tensions of the time period and the real political tensions. They try to make Hamilton look like a great figure when he wasn't the best guy. He kind of, when they were talking about the Constitution and the executive branch, he kind of talked about maybe we should have a king and things like that. And so, yeah. But it's definitely a good tool to get kids interested in history. Yeah, it's a great tool for that, especially the rap stuff. I love that because kids that normally just think history, the early republic and things like that are boring. If you just play them a little rap song, they will be interested immediately.
Yep. That is my comment too. And actually, it's a double-edged sword because it gets kids interested in history, but do you think any of them are or will actually do more research into those characters and the real people and what they actually did? Or are they just going to take the musical at face value and think, oh yeah, Hamilton was obviously the hero in this musical? Even in the musical, he's clearly not the hero at the end. There's a big twist. And if you are really thinking about what has gone on, you'd realize that he was actually not amazing.
Yeah, one thing I really try to push in class is independent thinking and critical thinking. So I always tell the kids, I don't care what your opinion is, as long as you can back that up with solid research and solid sources and solid arguments, go right ahead. What you think is not going to impact your grade, but how you reason, that's going to impact your grade. And that has really opened a lot of kids up to look at history in a different way, that it's not just names and dates and facts and mundane things that no one really cares about. It's about analyzing the past and using that analysis to understand where we are right now.
I mean, we've asked a lot of other people, just advice you have for newer teachers.
Yeah, so advice I have for newer teachers is get the hard work out of the way first. Your first couple years, make sure you're making solid lesson plans with a straightforward objective that kids can reach. Make sure you're planning your classes, and make sure you're keeping all your lesson plans and curriculum and everything like that, because they help you out in the future. And then also, especially with new teachers, don't get down on yourself too much. You are there to make a change in the future and with these kids and to teach them things. And you're going to face a lot of hardships doing that, but you need to realize why you're in this game and what you're doing. And if you do that, you'll be on the uh, right path. And the last thing, obviously, is put the kids first. That's kind of hard to do sometimes when you're early 20s person and you want to go out or something like that. But sometimes you need to stay in on those Saturdays and dedicate your time to solid lesson planning or grading and giving good feedback to the kids. Oh yeah, and of course, feedback. Focus on the feedback, please. Education is all about making people better at things. You can't just give a kid an A or an F. You need to say, hey, bud, you got a D, and this is why you got a D, and this is how you can make yourself better.
Yeah, and we kind of glossed over this in the beginning, but you didn't have the traditional teacher training. So do you think that was like helpful for you or bad for you, or what do you think about that?
So I think it's helpful and harmful for a bunch of different reasons. So of course I went to, my undergrad is in political science and history, and my master's is in history. And the whole time it was more or less research oriented. We didn't learn too much about how to teach people things. We learned about, hey, you read a whole bunch of secondary sources, you find a hole in the secondary sources, then you go read the primary sources and fill in that hole. That helped me a lot in education because I could put that into the classroom and really show the kids what historical and political research is. Not only that, but what critical thinking is, being able to question everyone, including myself or another teacher or an authority figure, etc. However, there are some bad things about that. I'm a classically trained historian, so I didn't learn all the education theories and things that I should have as an undergrad. Luckily, I did do a program at Pima Community College, which is a lovely community college in Tucson. And I did a 2-year program there to get my certification, and they taught me a lot there. And I think in the end, it's a really good thing because I intertwined kind of the whole political science, history, and education. And by the end, it really culminated into something, I think, that turned me into a pretty effective teacher. And you know what? I won favorite teacher in the school district 3 years in a row. And guess what? It's coming for a 4th year. I'm going to win it again.
3 years?
3 year? Oh, yes. 1st year, 2nd year, 3rd year. And this is my 4th year. So I'm expecting it again.
All right. Wow.
But that's just awards, you know. I
That's
win
true.
them. Win them, win them, win them.
The award thing is really cool, though. I don't know any other schools that do that.
Well, do you know any other schools that have Mr. Stocking?
No.
Exactly. If another school had a favorite teacher, who are they going to pick? It could be a
That's
school
true.
in rural Iowa. They're going to pick me.
Oh, I was thinking of the top 10 teachers.
Oh, I won one of those.
Yeah. I
That
was
student that I was talking about actually
Yeah,
nominated me for that.
That's what I thought. Yeah, if for people who would like to know, the top 10 teachers is when the top 10 kids of the graduating class pick their favorite teacher from all their years of school, like K through 12, and then they take them out to the dinner. We all have the dinner together. They talk about great things, and the kids say thanks for being an awesome teacher, and it's a nice time. Like, even if it's just for a meal, like, just hang out.
And great Laura won her first year there. I didn't win one until last year, which was my 3rd year. And the terrible thing about it, unfortunately, I was in New York and the whole COVID thing was happening. So we had to do it through FaceTime for me. So that was terrible. But I mean, it's a lovely statement when a student says, you're the most inspirational teacher that I've had throughout my whole education process.
I think that at least that district does a good job of, even though you may not be compensated through the state in the way that you'd like to be, they really try and recognize teachers as much as possible in other ways.
Oh yeah. Yeah, totally.
Is there anything else that you'd like to talk about? I don't know if you want to talk about your tattoos or your music, anything.
Oh, yeah.
Go
Oh,
ahead.
wow. Let's go. Let's start talking about me personally.
Okay,
So
great.
when I came to Arizona, I had two tattoos. Two tattoos. Now I have somewhere between 25 and 30, I want to say. Somewhere about that. So I really am all tatted up, as you know. And a lot of them have to do with, well, this whole left arm is all historical stuff. I won't really get into that, but a lot of it has to do with my master's thesis. And then all over my left leg are all things that have to do with the Southwest. A lot of cacti. There was a cowboy playing a guitar, which I'm a vaquero. See, I'm learning Spanish. I also have the Seminole emblem tattooed to me, which is a great one, and that will be there forever. And I'm thinking about like putting at the top of it the first year that I started teaching there, and then whenever I'm done teaching there, I don't know when that's going to be, but I love it. And a big tat boy now, which is great. And of course, Laura taught me how to play the good old guitar, and I'm still what I would call an amateur at guitar, but that doesn't mean you can't sell records. My SoundCloud is blowing up, baby. And if you would like to find that, if you'd like to listen to all original music, except there's one cover by the beautiful Gaslight Anthem, you can look up on SoundCloud, of course, General Tube Sock. Look that up, and it's the album's called Whiskey Bottles and Wholesale Books, and it's just a classic. Think of Beethoven mixed with John Lennon and Tupac, all in one.
Oh, and this is where I would like to officially claim my rights for the hook that I wrote you and that you have now not compensated me with. But you're welcome. I'll just give that to you along with the free lesson. So just don't forget about me.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that. That's what it's all about, educating people. You know, it's not about making money, or you got to get that.
I'm sorry.
It's about me making money and getting famous and living a beautiful life, and you just being like, oh yeah, I taught him that.
Yeah.
But I am your prodigy? Yeah, that's the official.
Protege?
Official. Prodigies.
It can be any number of those.
Oh, it could be all of them. It matters who you're talking to, when you're talking, and who you're talking about, of course.
Okay. Well, our last question, did you want
yes.
Sorry, go ahead.
I have some more plugs.
Okay. Sorry. Okay? I'll mute and you let me know when you're done.
All right. I'll let you know when I'm. So I got a couple plugs. The number one is please check out my master's thesis. It is called Navigating the Ocean of Matrimony by Richard J. Stocking, and that can be found on Digital Commons. Just Google it. You'll find it. It's basically about the intermingling of marital expectations and reality in revolutionary and post-revolutionary Virginia. I won't let you know the thesis because I actually want you all to read it. Some other things that I do on my spare time, because I'm a little bit of a Renaissance man, I would like to say. Sometimes I'm on radio shows. You could find me. I was on NPR in Phoenix in November talking about the disenfranchisement of the Green Party in the state of Arizona. I am also once in a while on a radio show called Law Matters, and that's in Tucson. And from time to time, if you read the newspaper, I know that's kind of a boomer thing to do, but if you read the newspaper, you could find some of my beautiful, directly written op-eds about historical and political topics in the Arizona Daily Star. And of course, if you have any questions, just look up General Tube Sock. You'll find me. I'm there. Trademark. If anyone steals that, you're going to get sued. Okay. Yeah, Laura, so what's your question?
My last question, I'm surprised you didn't hit it when you were going through all of your plugs. Do you have any health tips?
Health tips? Health tips. Yes. Number one, please get plenty of sleep. If you do not get enough sleep, you are not going to be a functioning person. And I know that from firsthand experience. The second thing is, of course, you need to drink lots of water. Agua for my Spanish speaking friends. And if you don't drink enough water, you're going to be dehydrated and you're going to get headaches. You're going to be sleepy boy. You're not going to want to do things. And you're probably going to drink things that you shouldn't drink, like what they call it around here, soda, but it's called pop, of course, which is terrible for you. Don't drink that. Another thing is wake up early, go to sleep early. I like to wake up by 4 a.m. in the morning, get my day started off right. And I like to be sleeping by like 9 p.m. so that I'm nice and aware when I wake up. And then finally, this is something that I've incorporated fairly recently, is exercise. So before about a year ago, I didn't care about exercise at all. But now I wake up at 4 in the morning. I have a ton of pre-workout and creatine, I have big muscles now. And I like to run a 5K at least 3 times a week. And on the weekends, I like to do a lot of body weight exercises. And that keeps my mind and body on task for the things I expect of it. And yes, Laura, I know the quote you're thinking of right now, but I don't live by that quote anymore. You live and learn.
Well, thank you, Rick, so much for joining us, imparting your multitude of wisdom. And if our listeners want to hear your original music, you've already plugged that. And your Instagram, it is again at General Tube Sock, everywhere stores are sold.
Yes, of course.
Everywhere stores are sold.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
stores are sold.
They're somewhere.
They are.
And if anybody who is listening has suggestions or questions for us, the best place to let us know is YouTube comments or on our Instagram page at Nomads Podcast.
Mm-hmm. We will post extra clips, pictures, and reminders about upcoming episodes. Thanks for listening from wherever in the world you are.
Bye.
We'll catch you next time. Bye.
Bye.
I win.